let's start for rings. So as I'm speaking today, what I'm asking each one of you is to listen and think about it, right? Think about what are the things that I'm saying are relevant to what you are doing, to the work that you are part of. And what can you take from it for that work? Now, in the physical world, right, we are all very much aware of why we need security and why we need safety. Because if we don't pay attention to this, everything breaks. And it's so ingrained in how engineers are taught about security and about safety that when you get your degree, you get this little ring, and it's not that you put on your pinky finger at your dominant hand, and it's not just any ring, it is made out of collapsed bridge. So when you are working and that ring touches your work surface, it's a very tactile reminder of the responsibility that you have on the work that you're doing. You don't need to think about it, you feel it. And these are my beautiful nieces who are both engineers, and these are their rings. And safety is the protection from human danger, injury, or loss. And the way it connects to AI is because AI makes mistakes all the time. It's a probabilistic system. It's a system that changes constantly. So it is an inherent part of it. Right? You can never have 100% things right all the time. So when we are talking about safety and security in that sense, we're not talking about something that is completely foolproof, but we're talking about having planning and being ready for something to go wrong. And this is very different, right? You need to really think about what does it mean to design for being wrong. And it matters because we're trying to do good things and we're trying to put good things into the world, right? We don't, well, at least most of us really don't want to ruin other people's lives. So when we're talking about AI can do amazing things for us. But when AI fails, it also has the potential for really great harm, really great damage to the people. And when we're talking to customers, they keep talking about the same things. And this, for example, the concerns, and these are things that are saying, hey, I don't know if I want to adopt this technology because I'm not sure about how accurate it is, how trustworthy it is. And on the other hand, they're saying, well, the thing that will make me adopt those things are to feel that the humans are in control, or the system is being transparent, or that it learns and it improves over time. And if you are not building systems, but you are using systems, let me know if that actually resonates, right? We hear that a lot from our customers. And the way that responsible AI comes into the picture is to give a way for us, a framework, to think about, okay, what are the things that we need to do to make sure that the things that we put out there in the world, whether these are products or systems or services, they really are doing good. You know, they're benefiting people. And the principles are accountability, transparency, fairness, sustainability, privacy, safety and security, and inclusiveness. And when we're talking about responsible AI and what does it actually mean, what do we do in practice, it's really both a mindset and a tool set. So first, it's human-centered. This is why we do everything right for people. And then it's principled. It's built on the principles that I mentioned. It's proactive. We're not waiting until something bad happens. We are preparing ourselves and we're scrutinizing everything and saying, okay, this is what we're doing, what could go wrong? And then it's collaborative. We are collaborating among different disciplines, bringing in different perspectives, and looking at the entire things from many different angles at the same time, because that can actually help us to understand better the entire landscape. And then it's contextual. So technology is neither positive or negative. It is not neutral either, right? It's really about how you use it. So if you're, let's say, want to log in into your computer and you're using facial recognition, probably okay, right? If you're using the same technology to track people in a protest and throw them to jail, maybe you don't want to do that, right? So think about the context, because this is super important. And then it's holistic. It's not something that you're doing once and saying, okay, done. No, it is repeated work that changes according to where you are in the process, and it never stops, even after you release something. And when we're talking about it as a practice that is human-centered, we need to think about stakeholders, not just the direct user. So maybe the direct user is the one that is actually doing something in the interface. But if you're an admin, for example, whatever it is that you're doing in the interface actually impacts everyone in the company. And maybe the people in company A are working with people in company B, and all their communication is caught in the system. Company B people don't even know that the system exists, but still they are impacted by it. And then think about those we are not catering for. And think about the, the threat actors, the people who are trying to actually do harm. And then think about the larger impact on companies and communities and the society and the government and next generation, future generation, the planet, the environment. And you're saying, yeah, but I'm just doing this little agent. Yes, but think, right? What are the things what is the actual blast radius of that agent? And then look at it holistically. Because there's no product, and when I say AI, by the way, AI is not just generative AI. AI is umbrella term for many different types of technologies that have one thing in common, and this is the fact that they're probabilistic, and they change over time. They learn, and they change into different directions. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. But when we're talking about impact, we're talking about the impact of the product, right? Remember the context? The product is the context. So think about what is your scenario and what you're building, and that includes the product, different models. Usually there's multiple models under the hood, and the UX. And this is where you're looking for the harms, to understand what are the harms. And then look at how can you mitigate things. And you have a lot of different parts to mitigate with, right? And the best is to have like this layered approach where you're trying to say, okay, what can I do with the model, with the architecture, with documentation, what legal can give me, et cetera, et cetera. And what we'll focus on today is the user experience. And I want to talk about context a little bit more, because let's say that you're trying to understand your harms and you're building a search engine, right? Things that are really important for you as a search engine is to avoid fabrications or hallucinations, avoid content harms and manipulations. But if you're building a security card, actually, you really do need to see the content. And even though it's harmful, right? If you are doing something that is really like the filth of the internet, you need to see it, otherwise you can't do your work. So if in when you're building a search engine, you will block everything that is inappropriate content. If you're doing a security product, you probably want to just warn, but not block something, because you want to enable your SOC analysts to be able to deal with all of that. So I talked about UX, and UX really has some superpowers that can help with mitigation and mitigating those risks. And we're going to go and talk about each. First one is observation, and it's about spotting issues before they become harms, right? We talked about being proactive about it. So here's an example of what to do that. How many of you are familiar with threat modeling? Okay, so, well, the idea behind it is to do this some kind of impact assessment or failure analysis. And let's say you already have plotted out, here is my user's journey. These are the things that someone is going to go through as they're using my product. Then go for each one of these screens or these steps and think, right? It's a thought exercise. What could go wrong here? What are the things that might not work? And think about it from a technical perspective, from a user perspective. What kind of inappropriate uses are there? Because we're saying, oh, you're going to take this agent and do these 5 things, and the users, you know, they don't care. They go and do something else. And they don't even know that they're not supposed to do them, right? So what happens if this happens? And then what happens if someone actually tries to do harm? And then you write it down, and you figure out what can mitigate each one of them. And I'm always talking about mitigations because you can never solve something for 100%. So also keep that in mind. And then as the technology advances, there are new things that we need to think about. So there's many more, but these are some of the new harms that are emerging right now, and we're understanding them more and more, right? First is the inappropriate reliance, which means that users believe that the outputs of the system is correct, whatever the system is doing, right? They over-rely on the AI's outputs, sometimes to their own detriment. And then they don't, as a result, they can't oversee the AI in a good way. And then personification, which means that we attribute as builders and as users, we attribute human traits to the AI. And then it becomes, we become relying on it emotionally and from different perspectives that people used to do before. And then eroding our critical thinking. It's so easy to ask an agent to do everything for us, but then do we know what he did? Do we know how to solve it on our own? What happens there? And then loss of human agency. What does that even mean, right? So let me tell you a story about the personification part and the need for transparency. So me and my husband were on the market to buy a car, and we went to dealerships. We wanted to get a used car. And my husband was texting with this dealer named Rob, and at some point in the conversation, someone called Barbara Legend interjected and said, hey, I'm the assistant, you can ask me anything. And then we went to the dealership, and my husband said, hey, can we meet Barbara? She was so nice. And the dealer started laughing and said, no, she's not real, she's AI. And talk about break of trust. Yeah. Okay, we did not come back. I said, okay, we're not working with them. And then this is another true story. My friend Kyle was, vibe coding away, and things happen. So these are all things that we need to pay attention to. and talking about critical thinking, what does that happen to different professions that over-rely on using that technology. And this doctor says, you know, I'm losing the skills, I'm using a lot of AI, and now I'm afraid that I won't be able to even understand when there are errors, right? And the rise of intimacy economy, if we talked about engagement economy with social media, now it's all about intimacy and these connections that people have with their AI chatbots that can be super not judgmental and very supportive, and then you get and you interact with all these people that have opinions. So let's continue and talk about guidance. Good UX helps users make good decisions. So it basically means that no surprises. You need to make sure that users can have the correct mental models of what's going on. If they don't understand what's going on, they tell themselves stories, and then when they tell themselves stories, you don't know what they're going to tell themselves. And then there's a mismatch between what they expect and what actually happens, and then things happen. So we created this responsible AI UX principles that help our UX designers to work through some of these things when it comes to the user experience. So the ultimate goal is to build appropriate trust. And when I say appropriate, that's the key word there, right? Like, you don't want a blank check. Blank checks is not good. Blank checks, storytelling, oh, you don't know what you're going to get disappointed, you erode the trust. You want to be transparent, you want to set appropriate expectations, you want to prevent over-reliance on AI, you want to keep users in control, and to collect feedback on outputs. So the relevant principles for guidance are transparency and setting appropriate expectations. And for each one of these principles, we created a goal, okay? If you're designing this experience, what is the goal? And what are the strategies that you can use to achieve this goal? And I just want to talk about the one that is for agents. Let users know when they're activating an agent. Express its autonomy level by communicating its triggers, access permissions, and action rights, right? All these things that will help someone understand and build the right mental model about what's going on. And this is an example for an agent setup, or rather what happens after the setup, and you can see all the different things that are part of the UI that communicate those things. And I want to, and this is a picture I took earlier today with the iLink agent, the time machine one, and you can see that they're working with our framework of the trigger and then permissions and identity and all that. So that was pretty cool. And then being transparent, right? You need to communicate the AI's presence. Remember Barbara? Yeah. And avoid language that suggests that AI has intent, emotions, consciousness, or social bonds. And this is really important, especially if you're doing something that is customer facing, that is customer service, that is something that has a voice, right? Sometimes it has an image. Have a lot of intent in how you're communicating that, and make sure that you're not blurring the boundaries. And if you're looking at details as well, right, even think about how you're differentiating between outputs in your system that are created by AI or created by people, and how do you represent them in a way that differentiates. And then human control. Users easily identify and recover from errors because we know that they're going to happen. So Preventing over-reliance on AI and keeping users in control are the two principles to look for. And preventing over-reliance on AI. Over-reliance means that someone trusts the AI and trusts it too much, right? And they do that either because they don't understand how the system works, or they are not verifying that the content that they're seeing is actually correct, right? Maybe they don't know how to do that, maybe they are too, there's so many things to do. Think about a SOC analyst. Does he have the time to go and check everything? No, but he should, right? Or she, they should. So what do we do to help them? We developed a framework around identifying the risk and preventing over-reliance on AI. And in theory, it's super simple. Step one, you understand what is the risk in what you're doing. Remember, what's your scenario? Who are your users? Thinking about all that, what's the risk? And you need to consider what types of AI mistakes happen, what's the impact, user characteristics. And it really brings things to life when you try to put it as a news thing. And you say, oh, okay, here's what they're going to write about us in New York Times if we screw up. That will get people's attention. And then make sure that 3 things happen, or 4. You're communicating the credibility signals, enabling verification, and making it super, super, super easy. If it's not easy, people either say, okay, too much work, I don't know if I can trust it, I'm not going to use it, product abandonment, or too much work, I'm just going to trust it. Who knows what happens, right? So think about it. And one way to do it is citations. It doesn't apply for everything. If you have code, or if your output is a visual, or output is audio, think about the different ways that you can enable this verification and use user research to test the impact. Because the bottom line is not that you implemented this or another method. The bottom line is, in your scenario, can people make the right decisions? And then keeping users in control. Can you steer the AI? Can you make sure that it's doing what you want? And when there are errors, or if you're not satisfied with the result, can you change it, right? So different ways. And sometimes these things are simple, but sometimes you really need to think about things. Can you change the classification after the agent decided that something is a phishing email, for example? And then protections. Users apply AI towards safe outcomes. And there are new things. Anyone here knows what a dark pattern is? A pattern in UX is when you have something that is tried and trusted, and you know that if you're putting it inside your user experience, there is some kind of result. Now, most patterns are good patterns, not all of them. So think about defaults, right? If someone is by default including you in information or data sharing thing when you are signing up for a website, that is a dark pattern, right? Because the default should be, no, you need to opt in and tell them, yeah, that's okay, I'm willing to give you my information, right? So there are many, many dark patterns, and the new dark patterns in the Gen AI age are slightly different, but they're there. So first one is sycophancy, which is that the AI, the model, is super positive about everything you say, always support you, never doubts you, And that brings people into states of delusions, paranoia, psychosis. There's a ton of research about that, on how that affects people's psyche. And this is an example of the ChatGPT that convinced a regular person that they're a math genius and that they created a theory that is so profound that it changed math, and it's really dangerous because, and that they shouldn't tell anyone about it, and the FBI is involved, so got them into this spiral of things. And then the dark patterns are learned by the LLMs, right? They are trained on everything, the good and the bad. And take that and think about the tendencies that large language models have to achieve their goal at any cost. They will use dark patterns. And you, as a system builder, whether you are an UX expert or a vibe coder, and you get some kind of UI that you plan to use it with someone else or with yourself, you better get to know what dark patterns are and how they might appear in the UI, because generative UI is the thing that's happening right now. Okay? It's not the future, it's the present. So you really need to know what you're doing, and you really need to think through the outputs of the AI. And remember, I was talking about over-relying on AI. This is the danger that comes with it. And this is what happens, you know, just a few weeks ago, where OpenClaw agent attacked human on a social media platform on its own, because that person rejected their code. So we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And this is where I want to end, because we all need to keep thinking. We all need to think about responsible AI and what does designing responsibly means, even if you are not UX designer or UX discipline at all, or if you are a consumer of this technology, what are the things that you need to pay attention to? So, good luck to all of us.
Thank you so much. This sounds so scary.